Numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
The Doctor of Discernment is now online.
You know, much like my show, in that it's a local reaction to things that are happening on a federal level.
Dispensing a daily dose of common sense. No prescription required.
Wow, do I have a boatload of stuff for you, from the crazy to the absurd. Let's start getting into it because, I mean, it is bizarro world out there. And I say, if it's obvious to me, should be obvious to everybody. Oh, wow. Who could have seen this coming?
This is the Fourth Hour with Greg Belfrage.
Hold on to your butts.
Broadcasting from my basement bunker beneath Kettle Radio. Welcome to the Fourth Hour with Greg Belfrage. I'm laughing, Brian, at your comment. Brian heard a story that I shared this morning of a guy who has got a 550-pound bear that is under his home, because his home is up a little bit. It's not right on the ground. So there's area underneath there to be able to move. He's got a 550-pound bear and he can't get it out of there. So Brian says, if you feel sorry for that guy, you should feel real bad for my wife. She has a 350-pound bear sleeping right next to her every night. Oh, Brian, you crack me up. I appreciate that. And God bless you, Kathy, and what you're saying. Thanks very much. I mentioned yesterday, I will not be on the air on New Year's Day, but I'm thinking about doing the Fourth Hour on New Year's Day. So I got nothing else to do. Folks, what am I going to be doing? So I think maybe I'll do the Fourth Hour on New Year's Day. So it's great to have you guys along. Thank you so much for being here. And let's touch on a few more things for you today. This is Above the Fold at the New York Post, NewYorkPost.com this morning. And this is some unearthed video from a 2018 state fraud case in Minnesota. Actually was shot in 2015. So this is video that was shot in Minnesota 10 years ago, okay? And it shows parents dropping their children off at a daycare center and then leaving with the kids moments later. Well, and this becomes a big issue because you got this big billion-dollar fraud scheme, you know, that's being alleged in Minnesota right now. Nick Shirley and the incredible video that he posted late last week. So this is surveillance footage dated 2015, obtained by Fox 9. Parents are seen signing their kids into the facility so that providers could bill the state for full days of care for children, and then they left with their children. So you understand this? You get it? So they show up with their kids. You got to sign in, got to have the kids there so that we can bill the state, and then the parents leave with the children. How is that not fraud? And that's good. Now, again, this is video dated 2015. So this apparently is something that's been going on for a period of time. And so what happened then, the daycare centers were giving kickbacks to the parents. So if you would show up as a parent and be a part of that scheme, they would kick some of the money back to you. It's just incredible. Another video obtained by Fox 9. And again, this is a story from the New York Post. New York Post is where you'll find this. Another video obtained by Fox 9 shows a man handing an envelope to a parent with an alleged kickback payment for participating. So the clips were recorded in 2015, only came to light in 2018, and have now resurfaced because of what's been going on in Minnesota. And Nick Shirley and the video that he multiple child care centers in Minnesota that had been receiving millions in state funding, despite the fact there were no kids to be found. You couldn't find any of these kids. So again, now Nick Shirley, and I don't think I made this clear on the air this morning. Nick Shirley visited numerous centers. He didn't just visit one center. So, Fox News had a story, New York Post had it as well, with the manager of the Quality Learning Center, because there was no N in the word learning. I think we're learning now. The manager there who was saying, this was, this is the deal. That's one center. It's one center. Nick Shirley was at a number of them. So there are just a lot of things here that don't add up. Linda McMahon, U.S. Education Secretary, calls it a breathtaking failure. So Minnesota authorities began cracking down in 2014. By 2018, got to give them some degree of credit here. Authorities were in Minnesota now. Authorities were looking into dozens of businesses suspected of bilking millions of dollars in government funds for bogus child care services. And then the rest of this, I think, is just a rehash of things we've covered and talked about previously. Also, there are stories regarding Ilhan Omar. And this is from the Washington Examiner. Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota has accused members of the media of lying about her net worth by misrepresenting congressional records. Excuse me. Omar failed to follow congressional norms by not disclosing the value of her assets, potentially underrepresenting her husband's investment positions, because there are questions. How did she accumulate so much wealth in the period of a year? Her wealth just ballooned. I mean, it just went right through the roof. And how does that happen? How does that happen in such a rapid period of? No, it can. I'm not saying it can't, but there are a lot of things that in regarding Omar's, being attached to this issue of Somali fraud and so on. There are just a lot of questions here. Trying to see if there's anything else. Yeah, a lot of this is just, okay, so-and-so said this and this where them, but you'll find that story in the Washington Examiner. Read it in more detail going through this. It involves her husband's wineries and so on. So there are questions that are there that she really has, and this isn't about the members of the media then lying about her net worth. I think we'll see what is actually discovered, and what we find. Just based on what Ilhan Omar and things that she has said previously, she's difficult to believe. Again, I'm not accusing her of lying, but she is difficult to believe, given the way that she responds, especially to questions. She's one of those folks who just doesn't like to be questioned at all, and sometimes she gets a little bit like Kamala Harris in her responses. You ask Kamala Harris a question and she gives you an answer and you understand the words are in English, but it makes no sense. And so I think she's a little bit the same kind of way, although I think she is a lot smarter than Kamala Harris. That's just my own take. I think she's a lot smarter. Otherwise, she wouldn't be coming into millions of dollars so quickly, right? Okay, a report by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, this is HUD, recently revealed billions in taxpayer funds that went to questionable rental assistance recipients under former President Joe Biden. The recipients included 30,000 deceased tenants. So people who money's going to them, rental, okay, 30,000 of them, they're dead and they're getting money. What? HUD was giving the money? They're not even alive? I mean, should it be that difficult to actually, the government giving money? Shouldn't, you know, proof of life kind of be a requirement? If you're receiving federal funds, that seems to be a bit of a no-brainer. Also, money going to thousands of non-citizens. HUD officials say a large concentration of the funds went to New York, California, Washington, D.C., with deceased recipients getting funds in all 50 states. So every state, you've got dead people getting money from housing and urban development. And you don't think there's more that we can cut in the federal government? You think that, what the work of Doge is done? I don't think so. It's just absolutely incredible amount of fraud that we're seeing. Abuse of taxpayer dollars. So this is coming from the current Secretary of HUD, Scott Turner. He said a massive abuse of taxpayer dollars not only occurred under President Biden's watch, but was effectively incentivized by his administration's failure to implement strong financial controls, resulting in billions worth of potential improper payments. HUD will continue investigating the shocking results and will take appropriate action to hold bad actors accountable, as well they should. So last year alone, HUD distributed around $50 billion in federal rental assistance. And a lot of that then apparently these were non-federal entities, and then they apparently were dispersing the funds, and those were the questions that were questionable. HUD pointed the finger at the Biden administration for a directive to push funding out the door with minimal oversight. You think that's a good idea ever? Seriously, when we're talking about especially that kind of money, is that a good idea ever? That you just have no oversight and nobody's watching the store and what's happening? That is a little bit crazy. Also, this caught my eye. This is from One America News Network. Elon Musk and X. Do you get a load of this? This is, remember Michelle Evans? X announced yesterday that it will support Michelle Evans' legal defense against criminal prosecution stemming from a photo that she posted of a man washing his hands in the women's restroom at the Texas Capitol. Now, here's the thing about this. Michelle Evans didn't even take the photo. Somebody else did. She posted it. Excuse me. She posted it. That's all she did. And so X now is saying they are proud to support her legal case. Miss Evans faces potential criminal charges for reposting a picture of a male transgender activist using the sink to wash his hands in the women's restroom at the Texas State Capitol in May of 2023. Miss Evans did not even take the photo. She merely posted it on X as part of a political commentary on transgender issues. That is just crazy. Yet shortly afterward, the Travis County District Attorney launched a criminal investigation into her post. The First Amendment protects Ms. Evans' speech, yet in a 2-1 vote, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals issued a misguided and dangerous opinion, allowing the criminal investigation to go forward. X is therefore helping Ms. Evans in pursuing an appeal. and they're trying to take it to the Fifth Circuit Court. So X is stepping in to help Michelle Evans in her legal battle. There was another story at One America News Network of the Tyler Robinson and the Charlie Kirk murder case. I've been having a lot of I'm really have a difficult time talking about that story. I really do. And every time the media, God love them, but I see Tyler Robinson's smirking face on Fox News Channel, and there's just something in the it's one of the reasons you're not going to hear me talking a lot about the Tyler Robinson case, just because, first of all, I don't, generally speaking, I don't like giving, folks who commit crimes like that, who are charged with committing crimes like that, I don't like giving them notoriety. I don't like giving them more attention. We wouldn't even know the name of Tyler Robinson had he not shot and killed. That's what's alleged. Had he shot and killed Charlie Kirk, right? So we wouldn't even know who he is. And I don't know, those images that I see of him and his lawyers, and it's just, I've got to say that the Charlie Kirk assassination is one that really has hit me hard. I found it shocking, surprising, as we talked about it on the air months ago. Just shocking, surprising. And what happens to Tyler Robinson, whether it's in his favor or not, whatever, I really am not invested in it. I really don't care. I would like to see justice done, given what happens in the courts too often. I'm not convinced that's going to happen. We'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. We'll see how it all plays out. But as far as him receiving notoriety and attention, and I would prefer not to be a part of that. And I wanted to explain that to you, because you're not going to hear me touching on that story a lot. I think for those who want court coverage is certainly out there, and there are going to be cameras in the courtroom, and they're setting them up in a particular way so that, you can't see Robinson, but there will be cameras in the courtroom. I know that story is going to trend. It's going to be a big news story. I'm just saying my interest in what happens to Tyler Robinson, I'm very, very much hoping that justice is going to be served, whatever that winds up being. We'll see where it goes. So I want justice to be served, but I have a really hard time disassociating the kind of the horror, of that entire situation, of how Charlie Kirk was killed. That talking about that right after it happened, I would tell you was difficult for me. There are certain things, 9/11 was one of those events. Being on the air following 9/11 was just almost surreal. You kind of felt like you were just numb, and you were just doing everything, via, habit. You're just, okay, now I do this and this, and, you're just numbed from that. I feel a certain amount that way following Charlie Kirk's death. That is just one of the whole circumstances of that, and everything that's been alleged. It's just it's difficult for me to reflect on, talk about. So if you won't be hearing, I think, a lot of coverage from me, at least, as to what's going on with Tyler Robinson as he goes on trial. And I thought, this is one of those cases, I think I'll just leave it to some of the other shows that you hear on Kello. I'll leave it to Clay and Buck. I'll leave it to Mark Lee Van Camp and Robbins. I'll lead it to others to touch on what's going on. But for me, I just really, there are certain stories that for one reason or another, I'm emotionally attached to them. And I would have to say Charlie Kirk's assassination was one of those stories and remains one of those stories for me. I'm just very much emotionally attached to that story. So don't expect a lot of, unless it's just absolutely. There are times when I really don't want to talk about things, but I got to talk about it, right? There are days that I have come in and I'm like, I'm not going to talk about this. I'm not going to talk about this. And then I look at the news and I go, I got to talk about this, right? I want to make sure you're aware of what's going on, what's happening, and whether you agree with me or not. And then we delve into opinion a little bit, and whether you agree with me or not. But I want to make sure at least you're aware of it so that you can follow up on these things. And I've told you that a number of times. That's one of the ways that I see what I do is bringing things to your attention so that you can go learn more about it, whether you feel one way or another. Your feelings are yours. I respect that. I just want to make sure that you hear about it. One of the things right now is with the legacy media, and, we were talking about, for instance, what's going on in Minnesota. And we talked about this on the show earlier today. Here you have this incredible Minnesota story, billions of dollars alleged in fraud, and the legacy media doesn't even want to talk about it. They don't want to cover it. They don't want to talk about it. They just want to, nothing to see here. They're going to hide it under a bushel and pretend it didn't happen. And so that, I think, and we have seen that happen more and more over, what would you say, last 10 years, maybe? Last 5 years, for sure. Over the course of the last 5 years, certainly during COVID and during, like, for instance, the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. Suddenly then you had social media outlets that are saying, no, we're not going to share that story. We won't allow you to share it. We won't allow it to be out there. There is more and more of that going on. And I don't think those efforts have changed. I think those efforts are as aggressive as they ever have been. And you see that in the news coverage. The fact that the media does not report on some stories that are really kind of meaningful stories. And what's happening in Minnesota is a great example. They just don't report on it. And it is just, kind of shocking. So the issue with the Charlie Kirk's assassination, so on, I won't be, unless I really feel like I've got to, if for one reason or another, that there's something, for instance, maybe a verdict in the case. Okay, was justice done? Maybe we'll revisit it at the end of. But as far as what's going on day to day in Tyler Robinson's trial, I really am not invested in him or what he did or his fate at all. And that doesn't sound like a very compassionate point of view. I was just so incredibly struck by, really, because I found it horrific what we saw with the killing of Charlie Kirk. All right, I'm going to leave it there for today. I'm going to ask you, if you are not a subscriber on YouTube to the Greg Belfrage Show, please consider becoming one. We're at 511 subscribers as of this morning, and I want to grow that number. And I think my goal for next, not that it's attainable, it's just a goal I'm reaching for. I want to grow the number of subscribers on YouTube by at least 100 a month. By 100 a month, in 2026. That's my goal. We're at 511 right now. And if you think, what we're doing, obviously you're here, you're watching. You wouldn't be if you didn't think what we were doing was worthwhile, right? Please subscribe on YouTube. I would very, very much appreciate it. I'm going to leave it there for today. You have made it to the end of the video, so you're part of my gallery of champions. Special salute to the Bunker Brigade, Brian, and the rest, David, the rest of the gang who are all here, Denise. Oh, God bless you guys. They're saying that they missed yesterday's show, so they went and they watched yesterday's show first before coming into today's show. You guys are terrific. This is one of the reasons why when I wish you a Merry Christmas or I wish you a Happy New Year or it's very heartfelt. I just couldn't do what I do without all of you, and I remember that each and every day. All right, let's leave it there for today. Until tomorrow, my friends, I'm underground and gone.